Hello, everyone. Dr. Stillman here with Renita Brannon. We are here today to discuss the power of copper peptide, GHK-Cu, and LifeWave patches. Renita, how are you?
I'm doing amazing. I just actually
Awesome.
got done eating some figs. Figs are
Lovely.
my new favorite fruit since I've been in Sardinia, so that's awesome.
Hello to everyone. Drop a 1 in the comments if you can hear us. I also want to gauge the audience and know what people are most interested in. I've been writing about LifeWave patches and GHKCU for a little while now. If you want basic information, if you're here and you're like, I don't know what this is about, please give me the overview. Drop a 2 in the comments. And if you want something more specific, feel free to drop more of a like 3 in the comments, or just actually ask a question. I love questions. It's part of why I do this. Renita, anything you want to mention before we have Christie come on and give her testimony?
I just think you did an amazing job again at This Is It. Let's just reiterate that because that was an amazing
Where's
event.
the recording for that? I want to share it with people.
There's one. I'll get it over to you today so you can have it. You might want to trim it though because I think it's all the doctors and
Okay, we'll have.
they all did amazing. They're all amazing people. But I mean, you're kind of a superstar, Dr. Leland. We know this. Come on.
You're making me
yeah, you just explain it in such an easy way that people can understand. So yeah, we'll get you that link. But we're excited. I mean, the miracles this morning I'm getting. The miracle inbox doesn't stop.
You told me they would happen. And
I told you.
They did. You did not let me down, Renita.
Yeah.
Let's have here Christie, because Christie's got quite a story to share with us.
Oh yeah.
Christie, can you hear us?
Yay.
Yep, sure can.
Do you guys know each other?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Just checking.
I love Christie.
Christie, tell us your story.
Well, about 20 years ago, I was diagnosed with SLE lupus.
Yep.
The last 10 of those 20 years were pretty difficult. I went through some life changes and stuff like that. I also had a son that has, he passed away of depression, died by suicide. And the number one precursor to lupus is stress. So with all of that, the last 10 years just kind of spiraled down. I mean, my diagnoses were, even before lupus, were attention deficit, fibromyalgia, osteoporosis, narcolepsy, depression. And then after my son passed away, PTSD entered the situation, and dissociative amnesia, and just a lot of things. I mean, as far as a quality of life, I had none. I basically, my husband was pretty much basically taking care of me. My mental stat, I couldn't even figure out my own checkbook at this point. The lupus fog was so bad. And I mean, I'm only 55 years old, so it was hard to function just in general life.
So you had severe brain fog.
Yes, actually.
Because I want people to understand that lupus, for those people who don't know, lupus is one of the most feared autoimmune diseases. A lot of autoimmune diseases, people will have them, but they won't suffer very much from them. But somebody says they have lupus, it's bad news. They end up with lots of joint problems. They can go into kidney failure. They can have catastrophically high blood pressure. They can have heart attacks. This can then spill over into problems with their brain. And so this is a very serious diagnosis, which is, according to the conventional literature, totally incurable. And you end up on medications for the rest of your life. Many of them have worse side effects than the lupus itself. And so, and this is also not a very common disease, or it's relatively uncommon. So please continue.
Okay. So, I mean, with all that, I was pretty much, honestly, I was praying to die at night versus anything. I've tried every pill, every lotion, every potion, my daily activity. I mean, most of the time I'd get up around noonish, maybe, if that, take my handful of pills, wash them down with Pepto-Bismol, and try to function throughout my day. But the brain fog was really in the mental clarity. I just had none. I mean, if you think about how simple a checkbook is to figure out, I could not even keep track of my own
brain
funds.
Fog.
Yeah. So it was like, after the patches and stuff, even like today, I mean, I've got my iMac ready to go. I've got my iPad ready to go. I've got my phone ready to go.
You're all over it.
Yeah, I'm on this, and that wouldn't have been possible. Facebook wasn't really even possible to post on. So your isolation with it, disease, invisible disease sometimes it's terrible.
Is it fair to say that, you know, even when you did wake up at noon, you didn't really get out of bed or get out of the house and get much done? You just kind of existed, and then, you know, when would you go to sleep?
It would depend. I mean, I maybe could sleep 2-3 hours at a time, and then I'd be up. I would either be, you know, taking more aspirin or, you know, something. I mean, I was in severe pain by... Yeah.
And so then how did you find out about the patches?
A girlfriend actually texted me and called me and told me about them, Connie Erlin. And I mean, I've tried everything else. So I thought, why not try this?
She's posting her love in the comments, just so you know.
Yep. Yep. And she just said it works. And I said, okay. I had already kind of checked into stem cell therapy as far as injections. So I wasn't, you know, so much on that. But, you know, to wrap your mind around everything when you have brain fog, it's kind of tough too. But anyway, so all I heard was stem cells and I was in. So, I mean, in my mind, I was thinking, I bought the biggest package. I went in at the diamond package because I'm like, you know what? It's been 20 years and it took me, you know, 30 years to get in this horrible shape. I'm going to give it 1.5 years. Because you have diamond pack, you get like 1.5 years worth of patches. So
wow. I never thought about it that way.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. So
I think it's incredible that you were so committed.
That's remarkable. You were that committed.
Yeah. Even though you had this like crazy brain fog, it's amazing that in your mind, you're like, I'm committing to 1.5 years of doing this. I mean, that's in my mind, that's like a miracle.
I got to tell you, a lot of the negative reviews, I don't get a lot of negative reviews for the record, but like the people who are like, it didn't work for me. It's almost always, I quit after 30 days. I quit after 90 days.
Right. And I tell you what, I've been patching for 1 year now. And I tell you what, I had miraculous results on day 3. I mean, day 1, I'm going to tell you a little secret. I put on a whole sleeve of patches. I had 30 of them on me.
You didn't.
When I got them, I had 30 of them on me.
For the record, I don't think that's like at all more effective, just for the record.
No, it isn't. It isn't. But yeah. Anyway, I tried it. But after that.
So what'd you see that first day?
Not much. Yep. That first day, not much of anything. Not much the second day. And then the third day, it was like, I mean, this is kind of a weird story, but I got up and my husband was in the bathroom. Stories. Yeah. My husband was in the bathroom and I'm like, oh man, I mean, like I had to go. I was doing the dance and whatever. And I'm like, I zipped down the stairs and zipped back up and he's like, oh my God, you know, that wouldn't have happened. I mean, I haven't been able to do that for probably years. So, I mean, it's the little things that you catch really early too. And I mean, if I would have quit, I mean, that's 3 days, but if I'm going to share this patch with anybody now, I tell them, give it 1 year. Because I tell you what, the miracles that I have had from 3 days to 3 months to 6 months to 12 months are phenomenal.
Wow.
Yeah. Walk us through those if you would.
Okay. Well, pretty much you know, my pain didn't go away and stuff like that real fast, but it diminished. It diminished enough for me to, and this is going to be crazy and I do me and everybody else can do them, but it's kind of an aha moment that I got. The day I got my patches is the day all my prescriptions could be filled. And this is not like me by any means, but I told my husband, my husband went to the mailbox, got the patches, brought them home because I've been excited. I was waiting for my patches. You know, I'm waiting to try the next new best thing. Yeah. And so he brought them home. He goes, you got your patches. And he goes, I'm going to head out and go get your medicine or what. I go, don't. I just said, let's not do it. And I mean, he's like looking at me like, whoa, you know, and it was not recommended by my doctor.
Of course.
It was not recommended, but.
For the record, I can't recommend anyone go off all their meds cold turkey without medical supervision. I also feel like this is the part where I'm supposed to say something like, like I'm not making any medical claims or like consult your doctor before making changes to your diet and lifestyle, you know, all that stuff those bean counters want me to put into my videos. Yeah.
But anyway, you know, and it was not recommended, but my husband, he's been an advocate too about what are you on and this and that. And so we just did it. And stayed with me or whatever. The funny thing about the whole thing with the medications is, number one, that wouldn't have been me. I was a pill counter. So I knew when my medications were supposed to be done, and I knew when he had to go get them. So why I said that even that day, I don't know.
Well, you're from the upper Midwest. You guys follow the rules.
Oh, always.
To the T. It's part of why I liked working in Minnesota, is that everything was on time. Everyone was polite. If anything went wrong, everyone apologized profusely and promised it would never happen again.
Well, if you ask my husband, he'll say I don't listen very well. So, but he knew what was going on. We knew if I needed an intervention or to do whatever, he'd take me to the hospital or whatever, what had to be done. So the amazing thing with all that is I had no really withdrawals. I mean, I was on a lot of medications. And
you would be with lupus.
How many?
Yes. 9.
How many?
9. Yep. Some steroids, some pain pills, some, whatever, all sorts of different things. So, I mean, yeah, it I don't know. Divine intervention, maybe I call it. So, yeah. So that was good. Yeah.
So what happened next?
Now I'm a healing machine.
So what happened next?
Happened next? Well, there was I noticed my brain balancing very quickly. Like that first month, I was on top of things. I was, and sleeping better and, less pain reduction, depression. I mean, I can tell you in the last year, I suffered from severe clinical depression as well. And it only got worse after my son had passed away. And I tell you what, there hasn't been a day, I've maybe been down in the dumps or sad about something, but nothing to the extent where I was at before. I mean, it's just like it was lifted. If my son were here today, I'd be patching him in a New York minute. I mean, I wouldn't even think twice about it. Done. He'd be patched. So there's that. And there's the dissociative amnesia was a big one for me too. Because with my PTSD, I would be triggered. Like when I'd be out in public, I'd see like a DC shirt or a kid wearing a DC hat that my son was so crazy about. And it would almost trigger me into a state of amnesia. The doctor told me that I wouldn't I was afraid to go out because it's like, am I going to steal something from a store? Or, it was really crazy stuff. And I mean, several times I would be gone shopping and come home and unpack the trunk and realize that I'd been to several stores I didn't remember. Wow. So, yeah. So things like that. So life got really, really scary for me. I mean, I was told that nothing bad would happen and it wouldn't be beyond, I wouldn't do anything that my own personality wouldn't do. But I mean, I wouldn't go and steal a purse and try and walk out of Target or whatever. But I mean, how do you know that for sure? I don't know. I mean, one time I went shopping and I bought 14 planners, different stores. Wow. So it was like that with the brain fog and I haven't had an episode of PTSD or that dissociative amnesia since day one. I mean, for a whole year or more. Yeah. So when I say that my life was very difficult, it was, and it was very scary. Not only scary for me, but scary for my husband. So
I didn't know that. Here I am.
Yeah.
I never knew that. So when you're saying that, I'm like, holy cow. I didn't even know what dissociative amnesia was.
Yeah.
My husband might think I have it when I go to TJ Maxx or something, but I don't. But when you say that,
credit score, right?
Well, I gifted people with planners one year, boy. I gifted them.
Wow. But I mean, that's just incredible. And the fact that your doctor was just like, it's okay. This is normal or whatever, however they worded that. That for me is frightening. Right. Yeah. Well, and, unless the person really, really knew you, if you were with somebody, they probably wouldn't even know that you were in that state so much unless they knew you. I mean,
like even a best friend maybe would think you're a little off, but you know.
So did you see any other changes? I mean, I don't know what happened with your lupus, but I mean, changes in your kidney function, connective tissue,
yeah.
what else?
Oh yeah, I could tell you this. And again, we might want to say that the patch doesn't cure, prevent disease or whatever. But the last time I was to the doctor, my blood pressure was good. My cholesterol
was it not good before?
Yes. My
it was not good
liver
before,
function.
yeah.
Yep. My liver
How bad
function,
was your blood pressure at its worst?
Oh geez, like I don't even know the numbers, but bad.
Bad. It was bad. I bet you were on multiple medications for it, weren't you?
Yes.
How did I know? So you went off those meds, cold turkey, and then now your blood pressure is normal. Did you change anything about your diet, your lifestyle, your environment, your daily routine?
Yeah,
what else did you change?
Yep, I eat healthier. I eat a lot healthier. I never had really, and this is kind of sad to say, but I never really had the capacity to learn what good eating habits were.
Interesting.
I mean, I dealt with a lot of stomach issues from the medications and the Pepto-Bismol and the antacids and everything else, that when I ate what I could, whether it was junk or whether it was good. Now, I like to eat good food. I love vegetables. I love, eating good. I didn't cook. It was hard to function in real life, even cooking for myself or my husband or whatever. And I mean, my husband cooked, yeah, but it was like spaghetti or hamburgers or whatever.
Had that always been the case?
I kind of always ate just kind of what I wanted. Yeah.
Yeah. But then when did you get the lupus?
That was about 20 years ago was the diagnosis. But I the first 10 years, I did really well. And
yeah, that's typical.
It was the past 10 years that I never got any better. I just continued to get worse and worse and worse and worse. And I kept getting all these other things added to it. And
yeah. But you saw your ability to learn, to adapt, to do things, to change your diet and your lifestyle, improve after you started the patches. That was really the catalyst that gave you the energy and the cognitive potential to do that. Is that fair to say?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yep. So I eat really well now. I try to, I follow the PFC plate and stuff like that, and I educate myself on it. Yep. Thank God for Renita, because she helped me a lot with that too. I mean, I didn't know what carb, fats, and everything else were. I just didn't.
Yeah.
Protein, carbs, fats. I just didn't know what it was. I didn't pay attention to it. And I mean, so there was that. And then I also drink lots of water, drink electrolytes. Before, I probably drank Mountain Dew and energy drinks.
And did you start doing that when you started the LifeWave patches? Because it's one of the things that people are told to do is drink more water and consume more electrolytes.
Yep. Yeah,
and one of the things that, yes, go ahead.
Yeah, my girlfriend had told me that when I ordered the patches. She kind of said, this is the thing, you should, introduce electrolytes or whatnot. But I've learned you can get those through food too, like watermelon and stuff like that. So, yeah.
Yeah, you can.
It's
really funny
I never
you
knew
mentioned
about
that.
electrolytes before.
What's that?
I never really knew anything about electrolytes.
Most people don't.
Yeah.
It's a term that gets slung around. And when I think electrolytes, I think sodium, potassium. For people who want to know a little bit more about this. So today I posted in my Substack, the post I made today, I included a reference to this that I want to mention here because a lot of people don't actually know how to get enough electrolytes in their diet. And so at the bottom of that post, and you can go to stillmanmd.substack.com, I actually include, let me see, is this it right here? Yes. I actually include what I do with that because a lot of people get lost, right? So the first two electrolytes I focus on with people are salt and potassium because they're actually the most abundant minerals in your diet by a long, long shot. Calcium comes next. And there's way more to this that I break down in videos and that I talked about in my coaching programs and things like that. But when you start with salt and potassium, you can really do a lot of good. A lot of people I find are on low potassium diets. I'd be very curious to see the potassium intakes of people who try the LifeWave patches and don't see the results they want, because it wouldn't surprise me if a lot of them are on low potassium diets. So I start with And this, again, I have to caveat this, that, you know, I don't always load people up with this much carbohydrate, but one of the things about potassium is you tend to have a lot of potassium in carbohydrate rich foods. So I start with a banana in my morning smoothie. I use a tablespoon of molasses, and then I'll have a potato or a sweet potato somewhere throughout the day, plus or minus some root vegetables that are also high in potassium, things like carrots, turnips, beets, things like that. Some tomatoes, not every day, or some tomato paste, which is loaded with potassium, some cooked vegetables, and then lean protein. Actually has a pretty fair amount of potassium in it. And then I salt my food with 1 teaspoon of salt each day. Again, discuss this with a doctor. I'm not practicing medicine via the internet, YouTube, Facebook, etc. But this is kind of my approach to this. And it's one of the things I included in this post where I shared a review from somebody who said, I didn't see results with this patch. And then I got this glowing review from somebody who's using it for her dog, her son, and her husband.
Right. We all do too.
And it's great, though. And one of the things that really amused me about this testimonial is she said previously, because people hate MLMs as much as I did, I had decided I would not share this incredible product and opportunity. Now my own experience presses me to reach out to the hurting and suffering to offer them hope and a possible lifeline. Dr. Stillman, I can never thank you enough for all that you've done for me. My apologies for this testimonial being so long and detailed. So anyway. Yeah.
Hey, I want to say something real quick. You know, in Sardinia, like all they eat is tomatoes, right? And I said to Scott, it's all this like sodium potassium pump that most people don't know about, right? If your sodium potassium pump, it's like a game of pickleball in your body. And most people are like, they're told, cut your sodium, cut your sodium. Very rarely have I heard any doctor say, you need to increase your potassium rich foods. Like they just don't talk that language.
Okay, have I told you why that is, Renita?
Yeah. What'd you say?
Have I told you why that is?
Probably because they want everybody medicated.
So, you know, yes, but what's really funny about potassium is I call it the redheaded stepchild of the supplement industry, because you can get more potassium from 1 large potato than you can from 10 capsules of a potassium supplement.
Exactly.
So no one's ever going to make any money on potassium.
Yeah,
but I'm over here pounding the table about potassium because I'll put people on high potassium diets and they think I've hung the moon.
Me too. And people can get off their blood pressure medication, reduce their hypertension. And people don't know they need
We're not making medical claims.
We're not making
any medical claims.
3 times the amount of potassium than you need of sodium in a day. And yet no one ever talks
about it. I get yanked off the screen. It's the FDA abducting me.
Oh, and the final thing I want to say about it is in Sardinia, no, everybody lives to be 100 plus. Well, what do they eat?
Not everybody. Come on now.
Like these people are like old and tanned.
I know, but occasionally they fall down the stairs, crack a head.
Yeah, I mean, but they're just very, very old in Sardinia. I'm telling you, these people are like old and incredibly tanned, and many of them smoke. But anyway, what they eat is tomatoes constantly. Tomato sauce, pizzas, pastas. And I mean, every time I went to eat, like I would get an Italian salad, it would be fresh mozzarella, like 5 different kinds from like sheep. And then it would be like all these, I mean, literally a plate of tomatoes. I mean, if 5 ounces has 360 milligrams of potassium, I'm eating like 20 ounces of potassium or 20 ounces of tomatoes every time I'm eating. And I said, and then they're salting it, right? And so I said to Scott, you know why everybody lives to be 100 here? Because no one's got any heart problems. Their sodium potassium balance is unbelievable. I mean, I've never seen anything like it my whole life. I'm pretty convinced of it now after I came back. So now I'm like, yesterday morning, I had 5 tomatoes for breakfast. I mean, let's go. So salted, of course, you know, but it's interesting to understand that and understand the healing capacity. And Dr. Stillman, I know you know this book. I'm going to do a Facebook Live on it later today, Healing is Voltage. And it actually shows in there all the minerals that you're talking about, sodium, potassium, magnesium, calcium. And it shows because our bodies function, they're supposed to be at a negative 25, right? Millivolts. Yeah. And the higher that gets to 0, the sicker we get. A 30 above is cancer, right? So we want to stay down at negative 25. The body heals at negative 50. Well, guess what these minerals are when we're talking about them? Oh, negative 2.5, negative 4.7, negative 3.6. They all bring the frequency back down closer to that negative 25. So when you patch and you take electrolytes, you become like a superhuman. Like Mama Kissy says, I'm a healing machine. I'm like, you are a healing machine when you do that combo. Now, the other people, like when they say, I don't want to take electrolytes, I'm like, suffer then. Or, you know, just keep patching and wasting your money. I honestly said yesterday, if you are not mindfully eating on purpose, choosing those high potassium rich foods, magnesium rich foods, you know, Celtic salt, whatever. If you're not doing that, you're kind of wasting your money. with the patch, because you're not going to have
Right.
the experience that effect that you would be and should be having if you were effectively either supplementing or eating those foods that are electrically charged, that we need them. They literally ignite the body. So I'm fired up about this. This is exciting. Mama Kissy, I didn't know some of this story. I'm so proud of you.
So Mama
And now-
Kissy, I take it as your nickname, Christie.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
Mama Kissy.
Most people know me as Mama Kissy. They don't even know my first name's Christie.
What would you say that the time course of your improvement took place over? Because you mentioned that you saw results within 3 days, and then you saw more results compound. What was kind of what did the curve look like?
Probably, I mean, I can tell you this. You'll have to watch my videos. I mean, my first video was horrid. I can't even hardly watch it. I mean, my husband was helping me down the hallway. I was so weak and sick and stuff like that. And I believe it was 30 days later, I posted my video where I was dancing to Footloose down the hallway. So, I mean, that was a big difference. But, I mean, for people that are in chronic pain too, I don't know how to explain it, but when you're in chronic pain and you get a little bit of relief, you're like on cloud 9. And I mean, that was my intention with these patches. I mean, I was going to go full bore for a year and a half, and all I wanted is for it to help me with something, somewhere, a little bit.
Donna asks, why do we need salt and potassium for the patches? And I think we covered that pretty well, but basically we need to maintain the electrochemical potential of the cell to generate energy in order to respond. And on that note, I actually want to jump into some papers.
You should say that in simpler terms, Dr. Leland, because like what you just said, it went right over people's heads. Yeah, that wasn't simple.
Can you help me out here, Renita?
Yeah, I mean, the cell is not going to do what it needs to do to repair itself correctly if it doesn't have the appropriate amount of electrolytes. And I liken it to every time somebody gets sick, like let's think of an elderly person, a child, or even my dog that got hit by a car.
Yeah.
What do they do when they take the dog in? They give the dog, basically they gave my dog saline, which is salt water, right?
Right.
And so, but most people, when you go in, if you even had COVID or anything like that, the first line of defense for most of these people were electrolytes. It's what they give.
Yeah, and they would give you like an electrolyte solution IV.
Yeah, electrolyte solution, and because that is like the first line of defense, and with healing, you need it. You know.
Yeah, and I think I'll try and make it simpler, but basically, you cannot generate energy in the cell without electrolytes. Minerals run the energy show of the body, and it's a little bit like a battery. You know, most people don't realize that a battery actually does run on salts and minerals. Like when you hear the words lithium ion battery, it means the lithium is an ion. It's an element in the battery that's actually running the battery. And you have a bunch of other chemicals in there that it needs to work. But, you know, like a lead battery, like marine batteries are mostly based on lead. It's lead that's instead of the lithium in the battery. So you need these electrolytes in order to be able to function well. And the cool thing about these patches and about light therapy in general is that it helps you use the matter you have better. And I want to talk a little bit about, this particular case. So a lot of people today are struggling with neuroinflammation, and this is not the top thing. And neuroinflammation just means inflammation of the brain. This is not the top thing that people think of when they think of lupus. They may think of kidney disease, heart issues, blood pressure issues, skin and connective tissue issues. They're not thinking about their brain, which is why it's really interesting to me that Christie brings that up as the number one thing that she was struggling with and that she first noticed improvement in. Now, people are struggling with this. I mean, brain fog is one of the top questions or concerns that I get from people. And I look at brain fog as basically being fatigue of the brain. And, you could probably, if you studied it long enough, find that most people who've got brain fog have got some kind of neuroinflammation going on. Why does neuroinflammation happen? And what can we actually do about it? So what I want you all to know about neuroinflammation is that it is going to arise from pathological processes or disease processes that are causing the brain to have inflammation. And my friend Russell Jaffe, who's an immunologist, says that inflammation is a lack of healing. He says it's a repair deficit. So when we are looking at a repair deficit, we want to make sure that we have the raw materials around to repair. That means eating a healthy diet and doing healthy, restful things in your environment so that you have those raw materials. But then the other key ingredient is getting the body to use those materials in a way that is constructive rather than destructive. Because what you're going to see, and lupus, for the record, is an autoimmune disease. Many people listening to this have autoimmune diseases. They've got Hashimoto's, they've got other connective tissue disorders, they've got some kind of autoimmune kidney disease or autoimmune liver disease. I mean, you can get autoimmune diseases of pretty much any organ system. Autoimmunity is exploding in prevalence today because we live in an altered environment, particularly an altered light environment. And so the key is actually to get the immune system back on track. Light therapy is one of the most powerful things to do that, which is why you'll see that autoimmune diseases increase in prevalence as you go further and further away from the equator. And you'll see them more in shift workers, so people who are working at night. Mm-hmm. And so I'm not surprised when I fix someone's light environment, get them on something like the LifeWave patches, get them using photobiomodulation, sauna, drinking or eating electrolytes, drinking clean water, that their brain fog goes away, right? What is the mechanism here? So it's a mechanism where we're actually activating healing within the brain. And this comes back to the stem cell thing, right? So Christie said, okay, well, I was looking into stem cell therapy for my lupus. Well, what do stem cells do? Stem cells are the basic actors in the cascade of events that cause the body to go into rest and repair mode and to heal damaged tissues. So one of the things you'll see is that a lot of modern diseases are characterized by what we call chronic inflammation. The inflammation is not going away. So in acute inflammation, which is how inflammation is supposed to work, you get acutely ill, you have a pain, you have swelling, you have redness, you have induration or other signs of an actual process at the site. You've all had inflammation from a bug bite, a splinter, a laceration, whatever. That's acute inflammation. What's not supposed to happen is that the body doesn't clear the problem and doesn't resolve the inflammation. That happens in our modern world because people are malnourished and they live in these aberrant environments. And again, that's why we bring light into the equation. We get the body back into balance and harmony. That light can wake up those stem cells. And the way this fundamentally happens with the LifeWave patches is this GHK-Cu peptide, right? So this is all very well established in the literature. This is a paper commenting on this GHK-Cu peptide. So for the record, for those of you who don't know, to give you the sort of 50,000 foot view, this tripeptide GHK-Cu is increased by LifeWave patches. You see a significant increase in the blood at 24 hours. You see a significant increase in the blood at 7 days. It's funny that Christie said she didn't see an effect within 24 hours, right? I'm not surprised. You might see the increase in the peptide, but it's going to take time for that to compound over time and to begin to resolve that inflammation. So this peptide is going to get in there. It's going to turn on the stem cells. It's going to reset a lot of the genome. That's what's really cool about this. It actually resets the human genome for health and healing.
Wow.
In this paper, this part stuck out to me. Recently, GHKCU has been found to reset genes of disease cells from patients with cancer or COPD to a more healthy state. Cancer cells reset their programmed cell death system, while COPD patient cells shut down tissue destructive genes to stimulate repair and remodeling activities. So this is why you're seeing all these changes. This is how the patches basically work. And what you're going to see, or what Christie experienced, essentially was this autoimmune process that was the result of an inadequate ability of the body to rest and repair was finally overcome. And the trigger was getting the right light into the equation to activate stem cells so that the process the body was trying to do but didn't have the energy to do or wasn't activated sufficiently to do will actually happen.
That was like the best explanation I've seen in my life, I think. Yeah. Holy cow, that was good, Dr. Leland.
Thank you.
Wow.
Renita, that's all I had for the papers. Do you want to share anything else? What should we talk about next?
Well, there's a couple people that have questions over there, so maybe we should kind of respond to them. I did put in there kind of again, you need to consult with your physician. If your physician is Dr. Leland, then consult with him. But I kind of put kind of the thing I think is so interesting about electrolytes, electrically charged minerals, is that what the minimums are like the minimums. Like, so when we say 4,700 milligrams, that's for someone like an average person. That's not out there like sweating bullets. Like if you're an athlete,
oh yeah,
if you're watching this and you're an athlete, Wow, you really need to be super mindful. And I always think the number one indicator of low electrolytes is chronic pain in the body and also chronic fatigue, right? People are just tired. Like I don't have the energy to exercise. I can't get up when my alarm goes off. I hit snooze 10 times. Like that's a person that I'm like, okay, we want you patched, but we want you to make sure that you have those electrolytes to sustain the healing effect that's about to happen, right? Like if not, it's like, and again, the patches don't treat, cure, prevent any disease. It was funny, Dr. Leland, last night I did a Facebook live, or actually a Zoom meeting, where I was talking about clinical data, and I actually had an old PDR from 2003.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, here, let me grab it. It's right here. It's this big fat book, right? And so they're so huge. And this is from 2003, because I used to, being a clinical exercise specialist, when people would come to me, I would look at the cardiorespiratory system, look at their drug interactions and all that sort of thing. And it got me thinking, because we're moving and I'm cleaning it out and I was going to throw it in the garbage. And I thought, no, I'm going to use this as a visual, because this is the drug side effects from 2003. Okay. We're in 2023. Do you think in 20 years, this thing is bigger or smaller? In fact, I'm not sure if you can get it in hard copy anymore. You would know that better than me, but I think they just digital.
It probably is digital. Yeah.
It's probably only digital at this point, because I'm thinking in 20 years, it's probably, I mean, look how fat that book is. I mean, it's incredible. So when people say, oh, what are the, clinical studies? And I'm like, I love that LifeWave does have 89 clinical studies on the patches over a 20-year period here. And actually, David Schmidt is never, ever going to launch a patch without appropriate clinical studies, safety, efficacy, all those things, because he's kind of a science nerd.
There's also so many papers on GHKCU.
Right?
I mean, the peptide literature is now very, very deep.
Yeah. So this is not, I think that it's not that the science is necessarily new science. You just haven't looked in this direction.
Well, on top of that, I think that they're not used to being told to put a patch on their body.
Right.
And they don't really, I mean, I think Jim has this great saying. He says, small hinges swing big doors. And I think people find it hard to believe that a little patch is going to do all this.
Right.
And I respect skepticism, but boy, we get some great testimonials, don't we, Renita?
Hey, we do. And I was thinking again about your list that you had on our last meeting when I was in Sardinia, and can you pull that up again? Because that was, remember the list?
Yeah, of course. Do you want to just go through that right now?
Yeah, because I think that needs to be shown, and we need to actually make that pretty, if that's something that you need to do to be able to push out.
We can do that.
Yeah, I'm not the pretty.
What Renita is referring to is I actually created a little form for people to submit their product reviews to me. And it's funny you mentioning this, because Jim, I said to Jim, I was like, you don't think I'm like overdoing it with this LifeWave stuff? I feel like I'm talking about it all the time now. And he says, no, Leland, you're being very transparent about it. You're being very matter of fact. You're like, look, this is what I'm hearing. This is what I'm seeing. If you want to submit a review, it's in the post. The link is in the post that I've written about this, stillmanmd.substack.com. And so part of why I embraced this was that I started to get these reviews back. And so you can see this survey. This is a survey in Google Sheets. And I'll go to this one because it's a little bit easier to see. And basically I collected age, gender, if they'd heard about it before, and then what was their experience, right? So you can see a lot of positives. You can see a lot of, I'm not really sure yet. We got a lot of that. And then I have 3 negative reviews out of 50. Oh, actually, there's more now. There's 56. So 3 negative reviews out of 56. And you'll see all kinds of different things in these positive ones, less pain, greater mental clarity, more energy, more calm, more focus. I think those are the big things. And that was one of the things that surprised me, is the number of people who said, like, I got this whole family that came by to drop me testimonials about more than one of them mentioned that their sister, this is the family here, that their sister has really significant improvements in flares of her autoimmune multiple sclerosis with these patches, and she swears by them. So those are the top things that I see. Is there anything else you want me to bring out about this?
No, I just think it's incredible. And I think that should be done in however you make it look. I mean, this is fine, like for us, because I just like the data and like to see.
I don't take it personally. Google Sheets.
No. I don't think it looks bad. I mean, I would still read it.
You're right. We should make it pretty.
Yeah, but if you get it prettier, right? Christy, any suggestions on that?
Well, what about sunshine? I mean, I have a great story with sunshine too. I mean, even before I was ill, I would burn. I would never have a tan. I've never had a tan
Really?
in my entire life.
You look kind of tan now.
Yeah, she looks
Yeah,
really tan.
do.
I was
You should
thinking.
see my
What
tan
happened?
now. Yeah, you should see my tan now. I mean, and I was always told by my doctors for the last, 15, 20 years, stay out of the sun. You can't be in the sun. It affects. And I will tell you this, when I, was experiencing my bad bouts or flares with lupus and stuff like that, if I would be in the sun, my skin would literally feel like it was crawling on the inside. And I mean, I have
You
pictures
have
of
to avoid the
this.
sun with lupus because you get photosensitive. Did you have lupus
Yes.
photosensitivity? Yeah, it's really
Yeah.
horrific, some of the burns that you can get.
Oh,
Is that with all
and it was
autoimmune?
like boils.
No, just with lupus. Well, I mean, not just with lupus. There's a lot of different
Yep.
photo sensitive. I don't even know if that's the right term, but it's what makes sense in my head. But autoimmune
Yep.
diseases that make you sensitive to light.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep. Stay out of the sun. And now I'm in the sun. I mean, I have a tan. All my scars, all my,
So has
all
this
the scars are
changed
healed
your
up.
ability to tan in general?
Yeah, I've never been able to be in the sun, period. I mean, in general,
That's remarkable.
prior to me being sick, I would burn and peel. I mean, there was never, and so this is the first time I've had a tan in, well, probably my entire life.
I just talked to somebody
Okay.
yesterday that said this exact thing. They're like, I don't know. Usually when I would go in the sun, I'd burn. I haven't had a sunburn in a year, this woman told me. And she said, do you think it's the patch? And I'm like, well, I said, what else have you been doing? And she's like, really only the patch. And I'm like, David Schmidt says that it's really amazing. And it almost acts like a barrier against sunburn somehow. Dr. Leland, you probably know the mechanism.
I'm not getting this side effect, so clearly I'm not using the right patch. I mean, it's going to change how your stem cells work and respond. The GHKCU has a very potent anti-inflammatory effect. It's going to have effects on the genome level, right? So, I mean, all this stuff could play into that.
And something with copper, because remember the old sunscreen called Copper Tone? You guys remember that?
Yeah.
So it definitely, I think, has something to do with like the copper in our skin, like the melanin production with the copper. And maybe people, like, I always feel like I'm a little bit of a believer, like we have stored iron in places that don't belong and things like that. So as soon as we put that patch on, it's almost like it levelizes or evens out some of that, maybe that, I don't know, copper, iron, something is going on with that where it helps to kind of levelize it. And maybe because of that, the melanin changes slightly and it's not producing the burn. I don't know. It's interesting. Well, that's a pretty common thing that Christie's saying. I've heard it probably 24 times. So it's not like an atypical thing that she's saying. It's more common than it is uncommon. But it's interesting to hear that for somebody. I remember my dad constantly sunburned his whole life, Irish, like white skin. And then, I remember after a month of him being on the patch, I took a picture and I'm like, he actually looks tanned. Like, I mean, in 80 years, I've never seen the guy look tanned in my life, So I would look at those pictures side by side. And I said to Scott, I said, do you think that dad looks tan? He's like, incredibly tanned. And I'm like, this is wild. He's never had a tan in his life. So, it's not just you, Christie, but it's it's interesting to figure out. That's your homework, Dr. Stillman. Like, how's that happening? Why is that happening?
All
And we're
right,
not making any claims saying you're not going to sunburn, but
let's get back to some of these questions. So, does this patch help muscle weakness? So the answer is maybe, Amy. What you would see. I mean, what I hear from people is I have more energy, right? So it's not going to, help your PR for your deadlift or your bench press, Amy. At least not right away. But count on more energy. And Renita, your son and a lot of his athlete friends are using it a lot, right?
yeah. And I'm an athlete and I'm using it.
And it's his first season without an injury.
Wow.
The first season without an injury was when he was using the patches, right?
Let's talk
What
about
was
that.
his combo? What's he recommending to athletes?
Yeah, Bo is totally, and I got my other son walking here behind me looking in the mirror. Hi, Truett. I have all athletes. All these 3 sons of mine are all athletes, but Bo, yeah, he's a.
You guys just throw out the kids that didn't take to sports.
Yeah, right. He's a Division I NCAA athlete, and he was in his last semester of college, and he had the best times. He put up the best times of his entire college career. And I'll be honest with you, college was rough. When he started, he was cross country. They were running 80 miles a week. He was breaking down. I mean, his feet were breaking down. Everything was breaking down. And he was always in the training room. like always in the training room, seeing the trainer, getting this done, getting that done. I mean, all kinds of stuff. He'd go there, he said daily, like he'd go to the training room daily. The last semester, and Bo's been patching, now for a year, but the last semester of college, which was this last winter, spring season here, had the best times of his career. And the biggest thing he said, Mom, I only went in the training room 2 times, and it was to take an ice bath. He said, other than that, I had not one visit to the trainer. So in my mind, some of these athletes, if they're not seeing like the ta-da thing, because I mean, he's young, he's 23, he doesn't have a lot of ailments, right? But it's almost like, I thought more of like a preventative thing, even for some of these athletes.
You say that because I've heard stories of like the NFL, not NFL, the NHL, the first team to keep their average vitamin D level over like 45 won the Stanley Cup. And after that, nobody on any of those teams let that number drift down below that. So, a lot of it is, injury prevention is silent. You don't know, you don't wake up one day and say, oh, I didn't, roll my ankle, or I didn't, sprain my whatever. So John Calabrese actually asked us a question earlier. He asked, do you have a vested interest in these? Yes, we do, John. This is a network marketing product. No bones about that. It just means they're not paying for ads. They're paying people to represent it. And your second question was, what would you say to those of us who've had kidney stones and were told to avoid salt? I've actually never heard a doctor tell a patient to avoid sea salt or sodium chloride, table salt, because of a kidney stone. The biggest problem with kidney stones, in my opinion, is that people are eating a very imbalanced diet. They're almost always drifting one way or the other with their urinary pH, which you can get them to monitor. We help people with that in medical programs and coaching programs. And if there is a problem with salt, it's also probably a problem with water. So a lot of people with stones are underhydrating. And that's a story for another day. Carol mentions there's an epidemic of brain fog. You are right, Carol. There is an epidemic of brain fog.
Absolutely.
It's because of, all the really enlightened people who are running our world. Maria Caballero Ramers, I was diagnosed with SLE lupus, suffered for 12 years. In 3 days wearing the X39 patch, the inflammation went away. We'd love to get your testimonial. Feel free to, jump on or shoot me a message or send me an email via my website. We'll have you on another one of these in the future. Karen, this is recorded, by the way. We're actually live streaming it to Facebook and YouTube and Twitter and a bunch of other places, so you'll be able to access it later. Let's see. Jerry mentions when someone has a chronic condition, their ability to utilize food and nutrients has been compromised. Absolutely. So it takes longer to get results.
Hey, can I say something about that?
Of course.
I think that's so true. And I also think that we're coming into the realm, and Dr. Stillman, you talk about this all the time, but we're coming into the realm. We've been so biochemically trained, right? Like so biochemically trained with big food, big pharma, all of it, and I'm a big believer in macronutrients, right? Christie, I created a plate, PFC. Yep. And so I'm a believer in that, but now we're moving into a season where we're realizing that the bioelectrical system of the body affects the biochemical. So even with vitamin D utilization, right? How do you get vitamin D? Spending more time in the sun, right?
Yeah.
And I could go all day just talking about that. I think it's so interesting that when people I just said this to my husband last night, when these old people get cataract surgery, the lenses that they put on their eyes are they don't allow UV in.
They don't. It's true.
And I'm like, that is crazy, which is why every elderly person, like they need you need UVB, right? To produce the vitamin D. And so they don't get any of that because they got those lenses on the eyes now that is actually UV blocking.
Yeah. They actually launched some that allow like 15% of the UVB through.
Have they? Okay.
We actually don't know what effect blocking UV light to the retina has. We have no idea. It's very interesting.
Yeah.
Anyway. Okay. Marcia asks, actually, Dot Rossiker, I have Hashimoto's, could not tolerate being in the sun. So Dot, I'd be really curious to hear which patches you're on. I'd love to hear that. Yeah. Let us know in the comments. Marcia asks, hello, Marcia, good to see you here. When starting the patch, should I use the X39 and X49 at the same time or use them on different days? I would use them at the same time.
Yep. Mama Kissy, you did that too. You added the 49 after a month, or what did you do?
Yep. After 1 month. I use X39 and 49 religiously every day since.
Yeah. So Renita, that's it for the questions we've got. If anyone's got more questions, post them in the comments. Renita, what else should people know about LifeWave patches? I dropped my Wholesale link if people want to get started. Which patches do you or things do you recommend? Or what do you recommend people start with?
I really love, the X39 is my favorite patch to start with because it's going to cover so many different things for so many different people, right? So that's number one. I think that if you've got that chronic, low level inflammation that's been where your body's literally stuck in that fight or flight state, right? Like I love what you said here about your buddy said about inflammation. It literally blocks or, you can't heal essentially. I would definitely add the Eon patch, AEON. That patch is a superhero patch too. When David Schmidt said the two patches that he wears every single day are Eon and X39, he sold me because he invented the patches, right? But it actually will pull the body clinically. They have the studies to show this. It will pull the body from that sympathetic or that fight or flight state back to the parasympathetic state within 15 to 30 minutes. And so if somebody's been caught in that rut of chronic inflammation, I would do both of those. That would be my suggestion when they're getting started. Put that Eon and the X39 in the cart. In fact, start with like the silver pack and get yourself, 2 sleeves of X39. And I would actually make sure that you're starting with that because I wouldn't want somebody here's the only thing I've seen. We've had such positive results, as you know, Miracle Inbox every day for a year, over a year now. But one thing, I've had 2 people in that time frame say, I'm not sure if the patch has really worked. My number one suggestion is, are you consuming electrolytes and are you counting them? And the second thing I say is try adding the Eon patch. And both of those 2 people increased their electrolytes. They added the Eon patch, and I got a messenger 2 days later said, "Oh my gosh, it was magical, Renita."
How about that?
So for me, that's kind of my suggestion for like the chronic inflammation people. She has her little dog Sophie. Do you want to tell how this has affected Sophie? This is crazy because people don't realize the effect it has on animals.
Yeah, this is crazy. She kind of developed some tumors in her mouth, affecting her teeth and stuff like that. Like big tumors. They weren't cancerous or anything like that. She's going to be like 11 years old. So there's French bulldogs aren't good with surgery and stuff like that. So it was like, not really a whole lot we can do unless you want to take to a specialist, get them lasered off and this and that. And she, to this day, and they were growing like at the roof of her mouth, like just growing down like this big, ugly looking tumors.
I love how you Midwesterners say roof.
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 On the roof of her mouth.
Roof.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah, anyway, all those little tumors have, except for one that I think is just kind of stuck there, but they're all shrinking. So, yeah.
How about that?
She's going to live another 10 years. I think she's patched every day too.
I love it. I love it.
Marsha, I'm glad you're feeling better after just 2 days.
Yeah, that's amazing. Somebody asked on here, could the Eon make them a little oozy? Here's the thing. If you are dehydrated, right, when you put the patch on, whether it's X39 or Eon or really any of the patches, you will feel off. You'll say, gosh, I don't feel quite right. I feel a little dizzy, or I feel a little nauseous, or I feel a little tired. Like I just need to go to bed. At first I thought to myself, well, maybe the healing that's happening is such a deep level of healing. God just wants you on your back. You can't be out, doing dishes or something. I don't know.
That. That's
I didn't know. Like when I first started, and then David Schmidt said, if you get a little fatigued, dizzy, tired, that tells you really need to take a serious look as like, how are your electrolytes? So that would be my first thing. The Eon also increases something SOD, superoxide dismutase. So in some people, if you're having that slight detox, could feel a little woozy, right? Depending on what the body's detoxing from. I don't know. Dr. Leland would know.
No,
that.
I agree. I agree with all that. So, it's really funny. We have patients who we'll get them doing certain things, right? And they'll say, I'm tired. And we'll say, you might just be relaxed.
Yeah.
And they'll say things like, well, I'm tired now. I'm feeling more tired. And I say, well, maybe you need to rest.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I have the best story in Sardinia, Italy. I was just tired, like the whole time I was there. And then
were you getting enough electrolytes?
Of course I was, but David, I actually asked David, because here I am with David in Sardinia. So I'm like, hey, and then Steve Merritt had the same thing. And David said, maybe, and we're both kind of, Steve Merritt and I are just like, get it.
You two are high octane. Get after it.
David Schmidt goes, do you think it's possible that you're just relaxed? And I thought to myself, is this what a normal relaxed person feels like? This is unbelievable.
That's so funny.
And so when he said that, I thought, yeah, maybe what you need is actually to settle down a little bit, right? And so it was interesting hearing that from David.
Yeah.
Funny.
Renita, should we talk about, because so I'll just let people know, Renita got me into this. Like I said before, it's a network marketing opportunity. If you want to join my team, the enrollment link is there in the comments. That's my wholesale pricing. If you join my team, you get access to private Zoom calls with Renita and I, where we talk with people on our teams who are seeing results, helping people. You learn how to build a business out of this. Renita, anything you want to add to that?
It's an incredible business model. Yeah, we call it the.
It's allowed you to completely quit your day job, right?
Well, of course, and then some. Are you kidding? And so, I mean, it's a complete financial independence, and I'm a big believer in freedom, and I just think that people are much harder to control when you're financially independent and you're healthy.
And one of the reasons why this model is I think you're going to see more of it is that they've placed a lot of restrictions on what we can say online, and so having network effects through people who know and like one another and trust one another has become more valuable. Because people are, I think, increasingly aware of their online reputation.
Yeah. And I also think that the magic actually happens in these closed settings because we are able to share from the heart like Christie did today, right? Sometimes in the open forum, I mean, let's be honest, I'm not sure the FDA wants too many people well at this point. So I feel like they're just...
By which you mean you're 100% sure that they don't.
Yeah, I'm just guessing here. So, and
some of the stuff David said from the stage at the This Is It convention would have some pretty hot takes.
Yeah. Just imagine if you sat at a table with them visiting for 4 hours. Trust me.
I'm hoping to spend some time with him. I'd love to interview him one time. But
yeah, let's do that. Yeah, he's amazing. But I love network marketing because it gives you the freedom. Like I think about my mom and the results that she's had with her Parkinson's and how it just, is amazing. And the fact that she can share that with others. Right. Her peer group, which, they're that 70 to 90-year-old that definitely don't have active stem cells. They all need some repair. Right.
And on that note, I'm glad you mentioned that because I got to tell people, the people I see getting the best results are 50 and over. The older the person, often the better the results they get. The exceptions to that are the people who are young, who are using it and have autoimmune issues, inflammatory issues, neurological issues. The people I see who are like, I don't really know what this is doing for me, are people like me, young, healthy, don't have a lot going on, don't have much to sort of judge success based on. Not that you shouldn't try it if you're young. I'm not saying, I'm past right now with the X39 and the X49, but I think that, one of the things I shared at the This Is It convention is I said, if you want to really impress a doctor with this product, you should patch their parents because they're the ones you should count on getting a better result in, a more impressive result in. And that's what really, I think, convinced me was that I see a lot of people responding to placebos in my world of integrative medicine where people are doing all kinds of different things from, people will tell me that their chiropractor works on them remotely, over the ether of the universe. And I'm like, okay, that's a little out there. Right. So I see a lot of placebo effect, but this is very, very far beyond that in many of the cases that I've seen.
And a big thing about placebo is animals generally don't have a placebo.
Animals do not have a placebo. No,
they haven't listened.
Very hard to get a placebo from the animal.
Yeah. So when you put the patch on the animals and it's like bam, then you know that this thing is for real. So we have a lot of veterinarians on our team as well, and they swear by the patch.
Yeah.
They're patching everything from dogs, horses. We got people patching birds. Wild stuff, And they're seeing results, incredible results. So I feel like that kind of knocks that the placebo effect out of the water. I'm in my world, I've been in health for 26 years almost. I'm like, I don't care if it's placebo. I don't care if it's real. If the patient is getting well and feels there's a level of healing happening, keep doing it.
That's it.
That's it. Because how much of medicine is a placebo effect? When you take an ibuprofen, there's
a book. It's called Surgery, the Ultimate Placebo.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons why I phrased that survey the way that I did, is I said, have you had a positive and negative, or I'm not sure yet, experience with this product? Because if 50% of people approximately are telling me that they've had a positive result, they mean that they thought the patches were worth the money.
Right.
They mean that they thought it was worth the investment.
Absolutely.
So what do you have to lose?
I want to answer a couple questions here. Someone asked about...
I've got to jump on another call, Renita.
Okay. Oh, you got to go. Okay, just
We're
finish
out of
this.
time.
Are you serious?
I'm
We
serious.
had some great results with periodontal disease and my mom's implants because they didn't set before and they set in the periodontal disease. The doctor says it looks like a different mouth.
No
So
kidding.
get
Actually,
patching.
I got a periodontal disease testimonial yesterday.
Yeah, we see
about
periodontal disease all the time. And so,
Yeah.
and yes, the patches for vaccine injury, X39 and glutathione, we're not making any medical claims, but I would patch with those two.
Can't say that word, Renita.
I
Can't say it.
Oh,
It'll
shoot.
cut out my tongue and send me to jail. Just kidding.
Can you mute that?
No, it's too late. Too late. You did it. Anyway, take care, everyone. Have a great day. Don't forget to get outside. Renita, we'll talk again soon. If you join my team, you'll get to talk to Renita and I on private Zoom calls. I encourage you to do that because we're a lot of fun.
Christy, thanks for getting on today.
Christy, thank you for joining us today.
Appreciate you.